Today we are looking at the best fixture runs in FPL, the best players to transfer in, and who is the best captain for Game Week 17. Guys, welcome back to another video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. Okie dokie, fixtures first of all, and to me there are three teams that stand above the rest in Brentford, Newcastle and Liverpool. It's just too bad they're all kind of meh. You know, Brentford have Thiago, sure, and their defence is alright, so actually I quite rate Brentford, but Newcastle look to be awful at the moment, and their first two fixtures, you know, Game Week 17 and Game Week 18, don't look amazing. Then you have Liverpool, sure, fixture run looks great, and they won the league last season, they must be good. Well, it turns out not a single player has safe minutes, and they're not even good. Okay, they're a bad team. Like, fair enough, Van Dijk kept a clean sheet last game week, but guys, he didn't deserve it. But to be fair, playing away to Tottenham, he could very well get a deserved clean sheet. So definitely not a sell this game week or for the next couple, but in general, I don't rate him that much as an FPL asset. To be honest, this game week, there's not a lot of teams with amazing fixture runs. I mean, if you look towards a team like West Ham near the bottom, they play away to Man City next game week, but the five that follow look pretty damn good. So next game week, West Ham will have a top tier fixture run, but this game week, because their entry point is so bad, I simply cannot place them that high. It's just not right, because you'd be bringing in a West Ham player playing against one of the best teams in the league. The same goes similarly for teams like Man United and Everton. Bad entry points, but you know, the 4 game weeks that follow, they ain't too bad. There's some really good ones in there. And if we look towards a team like Aston Villa, they're on fire right now. They're third in the league. Morgan Rogers looks amazing, but guys, I know some people don't like this, but the XG for Aston Villa and Morgan Rogers does not look good. And I base my decisions in FPL on what I think is going to happen, not based on what has happened. So I can tell Morgan Rogers and Aston Villa are both going to be popular, you know, going ahead, but their fixture run is awful and their data is nearly equally as bad. So I know a lot of you are considering Aston Villa players like Morgan Rogers especially. I would advise you all against bringing in Morgan Rogers, because the underlying data ain't great. I mean, sure, he can bang one in now and then, but he's not going to do it every time. And like I said, their fixtures, they ain't good. I mean, imagine playing away to Chelsea and away to Arsenal consecutively. You don't want that. What I do like and find quite satisfying is that Arsenal, I've given them their next 6 fixtures all the exact same fixture difficulty rating. And I want to see if you guys agree or disagree or not. I nearly gave home to Brighton a green, but Brighton are pretty solid. I mean, they played against Liverpool, they played away, and they came out of that game losing 2-0, but they deserved a bit more. You know, they're a pretty solid team this season, but sometimes their players just cannot finish their chances. Apart from that, I don't think you can really disagree, you know. With this Arsenal fixture run, I think owning an Arsenal defender is pretty solid, even 2, you know. I think Arsenal have the potential to keep 6 clean sheets in a row, which sounds outrageous because they're obviously not going to keep 6 clean sheets in a row, but the point is they could. Their defense is really strong. Saliba's back, Gabriel's coming back, so Hincapie is not great for much longer. Timber's great to hold on to, Calafiori when he's actually back and able to play, which should hopefully be Game Week 17. So Arsenal defense is back in full flow, but going for Gabriel and Saliba, they're definitely the best 2 because they will not face rotation. Not really much else to talk about apart from that, aside from, you know, whoever's playing Burnley has a good fixture automatically, and that is Bournemouth this time, and we all know which Bournemouth players are good and which ones are bad. So if you're bringing in a play for the short term, I mean, I know they played Chelsea and Arsenal in Game Week 19 and 20, but bringing in a player playing home to Burnley, they could get so many points that the tough fixtures, if they blank, it wouldn't even matter. It would be worth it. Anyway, let's look at the best players you should buy and transfer in each position for your FPL teams. Defenders, first of all, I would like to recommend Gahey. Now, Crystal Palace just lost, what, 3-0 to Man City? But according to XG, they actually deserved, you know, a win, which is shocking, or at least a draw. Their players could not finish their chances, whereas Manchester City had access to the likes of Haaland and Phil Foden. So it was never really a fair competition, was it? But Crystal Palace do have a decent fixture run, and Gahey is their best defender. His underlying data going forward for goals is actually pretty good. Well, not what I expect from a centre-back. And the Crystal Palace defence is still pretty strong compared to most of the teams in the Premier League. So you can expect a few clean sheets going forward. And Gahey obviously could hit DEFCONs too. Above him, we have O'Reilly. Now, this is a great entry point, playing home to West Ham. They've lost both their wing-backs, so going forward, they won't be as strong. And defensively, they won't be as strong either. And the main thing about Nico O'Reilly is the underlying data going forward is insane. Like, you would see this in a 5.3 million midfielder or a forward, let alone a defender that has access to one of the best defenses in the league to get points. Like, in general, you know, I know some transfers are team dependent, but in general, O'Reilly is probably one of the, you know, best priorities this game week. The only reason I have him quite low is because I know Pep's a bit silly. You know, he likes to do a little Pep roulette now and then. I'm sure you've all heard of that term, Pep roulette. He rotates a lot, especially when it gets busy, and there is a fairly busy festive period coming up. With Nico O'Reilly, he may get benched for some of these games, but the entry point is so good, and I do believe he will start home to West Ham, so still a really good player to buy with a lot of upside. Double Arsenal defence next. I think Saliba and Timber are the best ones to go for. As you can see here, the Arsenal defence is insane. The expected data, underlying data, is better than the actual output. You know, they've been conceding 1 goal in a few games. I could say it's fairly unlucky, but you know, at the end of the day, when you play so defensively and, you know, invite a bit of pressure sometimes, you are going to concede, so it is bound to happen. Conceding a goal home to Wolves isn't great. That's arguably the most guaranteed clean sheet in the world, and Arsenal still managed to concede, which doesn't restore a lot of faith in them. You know, as an FPL manager, I don't really like the look of it, but in general, I look at the data, and I know Arsenal defence is still the best defence in the league, but I have placed Vandenberg ahead of them. This could be Collins as well, but Collins is on 4 yellows. I don't think he will get a yellow card, to be honest. When we reach game week 20, I think he'll be fine. I don't think he's going to get a 1-match suspension because he got a lot of his yellow cards early on in the season, and he's been pretty well behaved ever since. And Brentford look fairly sound defensively, even though they didn't look great against Leeds. I know they only conceded 1 goal in the last 5-10 minutes of the game, but Brentford did not deserve a clean sheet, so I'm surprised they even got close to one. The reason I've got a Brentford defender here, whether it's Collins or Vandenberg, is because their defence is fairly solid. You know, underlying data-wise, it's still good in the last 8 games, and their fixture run is the best in the league. So Brentford is the place to go if you're looking for a cheap defender. If you can go a little more expensive, then go for the Arsenal boys. That is where the money is at when you're looking for defenders. Time for looking at midfielders now. Wilson comes in at the 5th spot. Now, Wilson has played great, guys. You know, he scored 3 goals in the last 4 games, even got a couple assists too, which is great. You know, people who transferred him in last week did really well, and they got the points they deserved. I recommended him a lot. I didn't bring him in, which kind of painful, but at the end of the day, if you don't take the risk, then you don't deserve the reward. My issue with Wilson is that a lot of people are going to bring him in. A lot of people may even sell their expensive midfielders to bring in Wilson. But Wilson costs $5.5 million for a reason, guys. He scored 3 goals from 0 big chances, which, don't get me wrong, it's possible to continue, but very unlikely. I think Wilson is going to continue to perform well at a good value for $5.5 million, but I wouldn't expect loads of goals or loads of assists or returns every week from him. But he's still got a good short-term fixture run, and he's good to hold if you can rotate him, you know, because he's quite cheap. You probably can afford someone else on the bench to rotate him with. So in general, I think he's a great player to buy, coming on good form. Just don't expect 16 pointers week in, week out. Next up, we have Bruno. I think he is one of the best players to own in FPL. Corners, free kicks, penalties, reliable minutes, defcons, goals, assists, everything. He's only lower on this list because his entry point is away to Aston Villa. And while I did talk about Aston Villa overperforming a bit earlier in the video, defensively, they are very sound, they are very good. But Man United do all right when they play away to Villa. You know, looking back at the last few games playing away to Villa, Man United haven't done too poorly. You know, they've not done great, but they can still put up a good fight. And like I said, Aston Villa have been overperforming. I do think Aston Villa will score, but I do think Bruno or Man United will as well. Hopefully Bruno. And might I say, Bruno's underlying data is some of the best in the league right now, on par with the likes of Haaland and Foden in the last 4 game weeks. But above him, we do have Schade from Brentford. I'm going to assume that's how you say his name. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. We've already talked about the Brentford fixture run. His underlying data, it's not great, guys. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not the best. But with Dango Ouattara going off to AFCON, he is the best midfielder from Brentford to go for, without question. And I do think he will find himself more involved in the goals now and then. Despite the fact Brentford almost did nothing home to Leeds in game week 16, obviously Schade didn't get any expected goal involvements. No one did. I think Thiago had 0 shots the entire game, and that sort of goes to show how poor Brentford were, but I don't think that's a sign of things to come. He's still long-term a really good midfielder to own, despite his underlying data not being great right now. With these good fixtures coming, that could easily change. Semenyo, as you can see here, guys, he plays home to Burnley, then he plays away to Brentford, away to Chelsea, home to Arsenal. It's not good. Pair that with his underlying data, you know, it's quite awful, but guess what? He plays home to Burnley. Guys, the home to Burnley entry point is powerful, okay? I mean, look at what happened to Wilson last game week. He didn't even play home to Burnley. He played away to Burnley, and it worked out completely fine, and we know Semenyo's good. Okay, he's played well this season. He's on bad form. If there was ever a time he's going to come back on form, it's now. And when a player comes back on form, you know, playing away to Brentford doesn't seem so bad. I mean, if he blanks home to Burnley, then it was probably a bad transfer for him, but I just don't see him blanking, home to Burnley. So what I'm saying here is that while Schade and Bruno may be better to own long term, this game week Semenyo is the one to buy. That's my opinion. I think it will work out for you. I'm going to do it, so let's see how it goes. Next up, we have Phil Foden at the #1 spot. Underlying data wise, he is on par with Haaland, and I don't think people quite understand how crazy that is, considering Haaland's expected goals, you know, some penalties are in there as well. He's getting penalty expected goals. Phil Foden is keeping up without any penalty expected goals. His underlying data is actually ridiculous for a midfielder that has DEFCON potential and a player who gets 5 points for a goal instead of 4. And like I said already, the entry point is amazing. His ownership is so high, it's an absolute no-brainer. If you don't have Phil Foden, bring him in your team. Now, forward options, they're not great, guys. They're not amazing, okay? There's only really like one player on this list I would encourage you to buy. The 4 forwards below you could make a case for, but I wouldn't be eager to get any of them. Ekatike, you know, a big minutes risk, averaging 50 minutes per appearance, but his form is good, his underlying data is good, and I believe if he does become the starter over Isak, which he probably should, he will be one of the best forwards to own in FPL for this fixture run. I wouldn't recommend you guys bring him in unless you were certain he was starting for the next 3 or 4 game weeks. Liverpool fans might know more about that than me. We'll know closer towards the deadline. Ekatike is at the bottom because he's a minutes risk. If he wasn't, he would probably be #1 on the list. After that, we have Raul Jimenez, who I transferred in last game week, and I'm already sort of starting to regret it, but because the short-term fixture run is good, and he's on penalties, and he's cheap, I don't see a reason why you shouldn't really bring him in if you're looking for a forward who's that cheap. The 0.54 shots in the box per 90 is definitely not encouraging, but if you guys remember, Welbeck was on some pretty good form and he had similar shots in the box per 90. So you know, you only need one chance, you know. When you're a good finisher like Raul Jimenez, anything is possible. After that, we have Mateta, who only played 60 minutes again, and he got subbed off early. I think, you know, it was a tactical substitution. He wasn't injured, but I think it was just to be safe because obviously Mateta was a slight risk before the game. I don't think Glasner was ever going to give him loads of minutes in that game week, even if he scored 2 goals, you know. And the Crystal Palace fixture run is good. Mateta's expected goals, they're still all right. He's not really converting them as well as he normally does. And that's kind of been the story of his life all season. So I'm getting to the point now where I don't think he's going to turn his form around. But he still has been scoring goals, guys. You know, he picked up 3.9 expected goals in a single game once, which he got 3 goals from. So that could happen again. Crystal Palace do generate a lot of expected goals. Voltemade in the #2 spot. Guys, he scored a goal last game week. It was in the wrong net. I'm glad I sold him, even though my replacement only got 2 points. It was still the right move because it was a 2-point difference. Got me a bigger green arrow than I would have originally got. The Newcastle fixture run short term is fairly mediocre. It's not awful, but it's not great. Long term, it's really good. Probably the best long-term fixture run, even better than Brentford's, because there's not many red fixtures for a while. It's just grey ones that you can mitigate and work your way around. The Voltemade underlying data, it's not awful, but it's not great. You know, he's a player that can score. He started off the season really well. My only issue is that Wissa is coming back. He didn't go to AFCON. But like I said, I don't think Wissa's going to be starting many Premier League games. There's no sign of it happening. And if that does happen, obviously my mind would change and Voltemade wouldn't be this high up. But it's not that he's not scoring because he's not playing well. Newcastle had an awful game against Sunderland. You know, if they actually played well as a team, Voltemade could have actually got some chances to score. Either way, these 4 forwards, I truly wouldn't say you guys should buy. You know, I try to get 5 players here and there's a slight reason for all of them. The only forward I recommend you guys buy is Thiago. And to be honest, 90% of you watching this video probably already own Thiago, right? Let's be honest. Last game week against Leeds, I said Brentford played poorly and I already mentioned Thiago did not do much. A lot of his expected goals comes from penalties. That doesn't mean he can't score open play goals. You know, he does. He picks up open play expected goals and big chances now and then. But he has been relying a lot on penalties recently. But with this fixture run coming up, this good fixture run, I don't think he will need to. With these sparse forward options, it's looking more and more like each game week that you should be playing a 1 up top formation or a 2 up front formation. I'm currently playing a front 3 and it's not looking great. I've got Raul Jimenez and I've got Thiago alongside Haaland. Hopefully they can actually do something for me next game week. Okay guys, a bit of captaincy talk. Now some of you may believe Haaland is the obvious choice, the best captain for game week 17. And you're probably right. He is the obvious choice. He's the right choice. Except he might not be. Okay, he might not be. Look at the goal threat here. It looks amazing. Even the creative potential for a striker looks pretty good. He's creating big chances. He's overperforming the expected goals. He's overperforming the expected assists. Not to mention, we know how good Haaland can be and how he's been for the last 3 years. It's a no-brainer. It's the safe option, because everybody's going to do it. I'm probably going to do it, but I'm not 100% set on it because there is another viable option who has every right to be your captain over Erling Haaland. And a lot of you already have him in your teams, and you probably know who I'm talking about, okay? We don't need to say anything more on Haaland. You guys already know about Haaland. Let's talk about the differential captain for game week 17. Phil Foden, underlying data-wise, okay, I think he is slightly better than Erling Haaland if you consider how well he's been overperforming the underlying data and, you know, how similar his underlying data is to Haaland. He's not too far behind on the expected goals. He's further along on the expected assists. He's massively overperforming the expected goals and shows absolutely no sign of slowing down, right? That's the first point, okay? That's the one point that makes you think, yeah, you know, maybe I could back Foden. Maybe it's worth a punt. But then you realise, you know, there's no point. We may as well play it safe. Haaland is still the best captain to go for. But if you think about West Ham and how they concede a lot of their goals, they concede a lot of cutbacks to centre mids on the edge of the box, and they're open for a clean strike on goal. And I'm sure you guys can see where I'm going with this one, but look at Foden's heat map. That's sort of where he's sitting for most of the game when he's on the ball and when he's off the ball, which sort of makes Phil Foden the ideal captain, you know, the player with the perfect matchup playing home to West Ham. I don't know, like, it's obviously a risk, and most people are going to go with Haaland, and it seems like the safe option, but Phil Foden just seems like he has the perfect matchup. So I'm not saying you should definitely captain Phil Foden, but look into it, okay? Phil Foden has the positional matchup for West Ham, and he's got the underlying data. He's on the right form. He could easily be your captain or your triple captain for game week 17. I want you guys to let me know what you think of that one in the comments. Anyway, guys, that has been it from me. That is my Buddha's guide for game week 17. We've got a lot of new subscribers lately, which I am so grateful for. So thank you very much. If you are new and you have made it this far, welcome to my channel, I guess. You know, if you're watching, I'm very grateful for you. And thank you to those who have been here for a long while, you know. Yeah, I will see you guys all in the next video.